Thank you for listening to the P-Pod from the Somerset Safeguarding Children Partnership. Due to the nature of this podcast, themes relating to the abuse and neglect of children are discussed. Therefore, listener discretion is advised and the content unsuitable for children.
Welcome to the P-Pod.
Welcome back once again to the P-Pod, the partnership podcast from the Somerset Safeguarding Children Partnership. Now, I'm very excited about today's recording because I think if there's one name that stands out and is possibly the most well-known name when it comes to safeguarding children, that is, of course, the NSPCC, who have such a long legacy around safeguarding children and such a high public profile around the subject. And I'm so pleased to have Tamsin here with us today from the NSPCC. So Tamsin, before we get stuck into the recording, would you be able to just introduce yourself and what your role is as part of the organisation?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Tamsin Sheldrake. I'm a schools coordinator, part of the schools service team within the NSPCC, and I organise a range of resources and programmes for all school settings around safeguarding.
Thank you for that. And I think from previous conversations we had, we are going to focus today on some of those schools programs that take place, because I think it's a really important area now. I think quite often there's a lot of responsibilities placed on schools, as I've said in numerous podcast episodes before, but also they are in that daily contact with children and young people, and often, understandably, suddenly saying, right, we've got to tackle all of these issues. So many issues there. Actually, how do we do that? So if it's okay, we're going to focus a little bit on that today in terms of some of those programs that take place and some of the work that you do to support schools and in supporting children and young people.
Yeah, no, that's great.
I think it's really important to look at that. And because obviously, like I said at the introduction, when we think about the NSPCC, I think it's a very, very well-known, if not the best well-known organisation around safeguarding children. People know the green button, if you like, know the logo, seen the big sort of national campaigns. But actually the NSPCC is so much more than that, isn't it? Than that sort of headline, the public facing side of it, the promotion side. And so what we'll do as well, if it's okay, is just have a look at actually some of those different aspects that take place on a local and a regional basis in terms of some of that direct work and direct support that you do. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine.
So in terms of, you sort of mentioned your role, just broadly for a moment here in terms of the NSPCC, like I said, there's so much going on. If people aren't aware, are you able to give some understanding around some of those initiatives that are taking place, both on a national basis, I guess, and the big campaigns, some of the big priorities for the NSPCC at the moment, and again, more locally in terms of the work that you do and your teams do?
Yeah, so obviously we've been around for 141 years, and I guess most people's knowledge of us is that our ultimate goal is to stop child abuse and neglect. So at the moment, we are currently in a 10-year strategy. So that comes to an end in 2031, and that's our biggest thing at the moment for us. So we have 3 goals, and one of them is everyone plays their part to prevent child abuse. So we want to work together to make it easier for everyone to play their part and create a social safety net that prevents child abuse and neglect. The second part of that strategy is that every child is safe online, and I think that's a really hot topic at the moment. Absolutely. Around online safety. So together we want to transform the online world so it's safe for every child to go online forevermore. And then the final one is that children feel safe and listened to and feel supported as well. So we want more children to know how to speak out so that they can feel safe for whatever reason, and that they feel listened to, that they feel understood, and that abuse doesn't shape their future. So that's our biggest one at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, some of those areas we've covered again in previous podcast episodes, particularly around online safety. It's a massively growing area of focus, and we won't talk about it today, but it's such a difficult area in terms of things evolving so quickly. And I know certainly from talking to frontline practitioners and to parents, kind of going like, gosh, we just feel lost in all of this. There's so much going on, so much we need to be aware of. And how do we do it? So I think some of those big sort of focuses as part of that 10-year strategy around that is so key, particularly at this point in time when we've got rapidly evolving AI technology and different forms and what have you. It's fast, isn't it, Hang?
Yeah, it's fast moving, and that's what we're trying to keep up with. But we're doing as much as possible to make sure that everyone feels safe.
Yeah.
including adults as well, actually.
Yeah.
If the adults feel safe, the children feel safe. And if they've got the knowledge, they can pass it on to the children too, and vice versa.
Yeah. And that's it, isn't it? It's about knowledge and confidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know in terms of your role, you sort of cover the Southwest and Channel Islands team. So presumably there are teams, although we have the large overarching organisation of the NSPCC, as part of that, you've then got those regional teams set up.
Yeah.
Would you be able to sort of tell us what that looks like?
Yeah, so we are split into lots of different teams across the UK. So we've got a team in Northern Ireland, we've got the Southwest team, we've got the Wales team, Scotland team, and then London and South East, the Midlands, the East team, Northwest and Northeast team as well. So there's lots of teams that are all working together to achieve that same goal.
And I presume within that, and you mentioned in terms of your role, you have that focus around schools. I presume within those teams as well, there are different sort of focuses within that?
Yeah, so we've got the school service team, which is the team that I come from, but then there's hubs where there's contact work, and they do contact work with people within the area of that hub location, such as Pregnancy in Mind, Domestic Abuse Recover Together and Letting the Future In, as well as we do like national campaigns as well to just reach as many people as possible.
And also just for anybody listening to here within Somerset, obviously bearing in mind that the work you're doing is regional. So some of those things that you've just mentioned may not be available directly within Somerset.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm just picking up on that then, in terms of sort of what you are doing in Somerset at the moment. You able to talk about anything around that?
Yeah, so the biggest thing in Somerset is the school service, where we are trying to reach every single school with our programmes. So we've got a number of programmes that we are trying to get schools to take part in and be involved in. So we've got PANTS, lots of perhaps parents are aware of PANTS, as well as primary schools. So we have the PANTS resources and lesson plans. We have Talk Relationships, which is for secondary schools, and that is to allow secondary schools to feel confident. So all the members of staff within that secondary school to feel confident in delivering inclusive sex and relationships education. And then we've got Speak Out, Stay Safe, which is for primary schools, where there are safeguarding messages around how to speak out against anything that they're worried or concerned about, whether it's big or small, to safe adults. And we talk around who those safe adults could be, as well as common sense media. So back to that online safety, we have lesson plans and resources for teachers and parents to help everyone feel knowledgeable about how to keep safe online.
If we can, it would be great actually to dive into each of those in just a minute and kind of look at some of those. Because like I say, I think quite often people might hear, I think in terms of PANTS, it's fair to say so many people have heard of PANTS, and it's such a successful sort of campaign and set of resources. I still have a bone to pick with whoever developed the Pantosaurus song, because it's still ingrained into my head and an earworm that I cannot get rid of. But it's a sign of how successful it's been.
This is Pantosaurus. He's going to help us with our song about pants. Pants, pants, Pantosaurus, pants, pants, Pantosaurus, pants, pants, Pantosaurus, pants. What's in your pants belongs only to you. Your pants cover up your private parts. Your private parts belong only to you. If someone asks to see, just tell them no.
Just to kind of go back for a moment, and obviously covering the Southwest region as you do, but also we talked about those national teams, you talked about the national campaigns as well. From each of those kind of various teams you just mentioned, what is it that you're kind of seeing coming through to you, either from children, young people, or from parents, or from schools, from obviously your side of things? Are there any kind of emerging themes, developing themes, other than sort of that online safety that we just talked about?
Yeah, so we have a young children's board as part of the NSPCC. So that's a national initiative where we have a young person that represents each of those different areas that I mentioned earlier. And so we take a lot from listening to them, because they help lead and steer change. So we listen to the young people and what's happening for them. There's a lot going on for children. They are dealing with so much more than I ever was as a child, and perhaps yourself as well, with the changing world. So like we said, lots about online safety, lots about feeling safe in school and in communication. There's lots around loneliness. Lots of children are feeling really lonely at the moment. So those are some of the key things that we're hearing directly from children.
Just to kind of pick up on that, if we can, just going back a little bit to, you mentioned sort of loneliness and social isolation. I know obviously that was something that was highlighted quite a lot because of COVID. And I think it was really highlighted in terms of children and young people's mental health and the impact on that. Are you sort of seeing that maybe some of that or other things coming out post-COVID?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, absolutely. And Childline would have lots of stats around particularly loneliness coming out of COVID, but as well, children's mental health. We're so much more aware of it now. And that's coming out from schools too. So we're hearing from schools that we're communicating with around the programs that I mentioned earlier, that there's a real worry about children's mental health and how they can make them feel safe because services are stretched.
And again, that feeling of like, well, okay, we recognise there's a need, like a mental health needs, either acute needs or sort of broad mental health needs in terms of social isolation, depression. But like you say, in terms of services nationally, there is a real kind of void there in terms of particularly those lower level support services for mental health. And that can often leave particularly schools and other frontline practitioners feeling like, I'm holding all this, but I don't know what to do with it, understandably. I'm not a mental health practitioner. What do I do with this here?
Yeah, they do. And we have a helpline. So an NSPCC helpline for adults and practitioners to ask questions, queries, for people to pass on information to say that they're worried about a child as well. So we're supporting schools in that way, as well as through our direct work with our programs. But then with the children, we've obviously got Childline, which is there for every child, no matter what. And that's what we want to highlight to children, that some children aren't aware of Childline or who they are and how they can reach out to Childline. And that's what a lot of our programs do, is relay that information to the children. So how they can reach out, they can talk to Childline about absolutely anything, and they're always there for children 24/7.
I think a lot of people are familiar with Childline. It again, so well known. And we did some work going back a couple of years ago now when we were looking at the SSCP website and actually, do we include a section here for children and young people? And if so, what do we include? And where do we signpost them to and that sort of thing? And we did some work with young people to say, well, if you had safeguarding concern about yourself or somebody else, or if you're scared or worried, where would you go? And I think 100% of them immediately came back and said Childline.
That's amazing.
And at that point we said, okay, well, let's not confuse the issue. Yeah, let's not add an extra layer of, do you go here or here? If all children and young people we've spoken to immediately say Childline, that's great. That's that clarity that we need and they need, and they want. But we can come back to that. But and actually what Childline looks like now, because I think that's changed and evolved as well over the years, which people may not be quite so aware of. Again, going back to my day when I was younger, I think it was a big red telephone, wasn't it? It was kind of with Childline, and I can still 0800 1111 is still there in my head. But again, I suspect that's probably changed and evolved quite a lot. But also people may not be aware of the adult helpline that you just mentioned as well.
Yeah, it's a really good tool. We can talk about it, definitely. And it's such a fantastic tool for all adults to have and be aware of, that they can use if they're worried about anything at all.
No, definitely. Great. Well, before we do that, though, if we can sort of go back a little bit in terms of, you mentioned about the work you do with schools and particularly programs there. You mentioned PANTS, you mentioned Speak Out, Stay Safe, you mentioned Talk Relationships. Could you give us a bit of an overview of those? As I say, many people, particularly those in early years and primary schools, know the PANTS resources very well with that tune.
It's still going around your head.
Still going around my head. Thank you for whoever created that one. But may not be quite familiar with the other resources. So could you talk through what they are and perhaps actually if they're only, I know some of those may be newer than the original PANTS material, sort of, what they are and where they came from, why they've been developed and who they're aimed at.
Yeah, so I'll start with PANTS first, if that's okay. Hopefully keep that tune in your head, and then we'll move on and get rid of it till another time. So PANTS has been going for a long time. We have lots of resources for teachers and practitioners, as well as parents and carers, all around the topic of PANTS and keeping children safe from sexual abuse. So we have resources for nursery age children, so 3 to 5 year old. I know that tips over into primary school. But yeah, there are resources for that age group, just introducing them in a child-friendly way about that privates are private and about who can help them with intimate care at a young age and things like that. And then we go into primary school, where we have lesson plans for children 5 to 11. So there's 3 different lesson plans all ready to go. Pick up, run with them. They're there, teaching guidance, everything. It's all there, all around those topics. So the reason we've got 3 different lesson plans is because at those different stages of their lives, children are growing and developing and things change slightly for them. So it's just, we wanted to create that stepping stone effect through their primary years. So they've just got that thread through their primary years all around talking PANTS, keeping safe, privates are private. We also have lesson plans around send as well. So we're not excluding anybody with those resources, including everybody, because everybody needs to know those messages. So there's a specialist send lesson as well. And these have been created with the PSHE Association. So they're thoroughly researched and, we've really developed and honed on what is needed within those lessons. And then we have resources for parents and carers to continue this work or start this work when they're at home with their children. And that can all be found on our websites as well. So that's PANTS.
And just to jump in there, I think from my perspective, one of the reasons that PANTS has been so successful is it's such clear, simple messaging presented in a really nice way, but it doesn't overcomplicate the issue. Again, thinking about the age range that's being targeted here, very simple, clear messaging and equipping both teachers and parents and children to kind of go, actually, this is this, and actually this is what you can do.
Yeah.
And even in terms of the children, actually just be really clear. No, this is part of your body, and just make it very clear, no, that's not okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're embedding those messages from an early age. So it goes through all their childhood, their teenage years. So even when they're an adult, they've still got those messages that their body belongs to them. No means no. They have the right to say no, and that they can always speak out to a safe adult. And we need that as adults. We need to know who we can speak to and feel safe, but really need to know that as children. And that's why we start it at 3 years old. So children have those messages from such an early age, and it's embedded within them that they can always speak out to a safe adult if they're worried about anything at all.
As I say, it's a great program, and if people working with younger ones haven't seen it, haven't used it, which I would be very surprised about, to be honest, but if they haven't, do check them out because they are brilliant resources.
Yeah. And we have Pantosaurus as well, obviously. He is the big main woman within that resource. All the children love Pantosaurus.
Oh, yes. And the Pantosaurus.
Yes. Yes, they do.
So moving on then to Speak Out, Stay Safe that you mentioned. Where did that come from? What's the target of that?
So Speak Out, Stay Safe has been going since 2011 and has evolved and developed to what we have to offer today. So again, leading from PANTS, it's wanting children to feel safe. So we teach them in a child-friendly, age-appropriate way about what child abuse is, and then more importantly, how a child can get help if they're worried about anything that we'd spoken about within that program. So we wanted to empower children with knowledge, because a lot of the time children aren't aware of what's right or wrong until they're told what's right or wrong. So sometimes it can be a light bulb moment when they hear our assemblies, which is the initial introduction to that language for a lot of children, that something's not quite right. And it's just that light bulb moment because they've never been told that it's not. So it's empowering children with that knowledge, and then we empower them even more to let them know that they can speak out to a range of safe adults. And we talk through all those safe adults. It could be somebody in school, like a teacher, which is a lot of children's go-to, but it also could be the teaching assistant. It might be the lunchtime supervisor. It could be somebody in the office or the caretaker. It might be a PE teacher that comes into the school on a weekly basis. We look at ones at home, so it could be parents, carers, nannies, granddads, aunties, uncles, siblings over the age of 18. So we make it really clear that a safe adult is somebody over the age of 18. And in the community as well. So police, doctors, nurses, it might be a club leader, it might be a faith leader. So we introduce them to all this range of safe adults that could be a safe adult for each individual child, and every child will have a different one, and that's okay as well. And we let them know that. And then we also talk about Childline as well, letting them know about how they can get in contact if they feel that there's no one they can speak to at home.
Definitely. And we're just thinking, I'm picking up on that. I think something that has come out quite a number of times in a number of national reviews is around, sometimes we expect, say we take within the school structure, sometimes there's an assumption of, okay, well, if a pupil has a concern, they will talk to the DSL because that's the structures we have in place. And we know very clearly that often children and young people won't talk to the safeguarding leads because often they're in senior positions, and particularly on the back of some of the things that we've seen more recently, like the Ofsted National Thematic Review into sexual abuse and harassment, particularly around those sort of topics. Quite often they will seek somebody they feel they may not, they wouldn't get into trouble with. I'm not saying they would get into trouble, but that's that sort of perceptions. And I always say in training, it's so important to think about everybody within your staff teams. You mentioned the lunchtime supervisor, the janitor, the teaching assistant, the PE teacher that comes in once a fortnight. So important that everybody has that knowledge and confidence to respond to things.
Yeah, and that's what we are trying to do, get at this whole school approach where every member of staff in school know that the assemblies are taking place. We obviously let the parents and carers know that these assemblies are taking place as well. So everyone's equipped with that knowledge that the children are going to hear these messages, and that if a child were to come to them afterwards, a week after, a month after, they know what they're talking about. They can have those informed conversations with those children and then put steps into place to making sure that that child's safe and feeling safe and feeling happy.
And then, so finally, then the newer kid on the block, I guess, that you've mentioned is talk relationships.
Yeah. Talk relationships. Yeah, it's fairly new, and this is our secondary resource, secondary schools resources. So it's to help educators feel confident in delivering inclusive sex education and relationships, because within secondaries, they're big beasts. There's lots of teachers, there's lots of members of staff, and it might be that a history teacher is taking this tutor group for this sex education topic this week, and their normal subject is nothing to do with what they're about to teach those children, but they're their tutor and they are going to go through that with them. So we want the teachers to feel confident in delivering those sessions. So we have e-learning for teachers and leaders as well that is CPD certified, so that they can feel confident in having those conversations with children, because we want all children to have an understanding of what healthy behaviours look like in relationships, to recognise that they have a right to be safe, to be heard, to be respected. And we also want them to know about those safe adults as well, just reinforcing that from their primary years into their secondary years, that they can always speak to safe adults. So with talk relationships, we have a whole school approach, resources to embed that culture of healthy relationships. We have e-learning for teachers and leaders that I just mentioned, as well as lesson plans, which teachers can pick up and run with. So it might be that there's something happening in a particular school and it's not happening anywhere else, it's happening in this school, and they can go on, register for our resources and pick up and run with that topic, and it's already there for them, rather than having to try and find that information and pull something together. So we have at least 14 mainstream lessons ranging from 11 to 16-year-olds, and then 6 specialist SEND lessons as well. And they range in topic. It can be from changing friendships, because that can be quite difficult to navigate, and particularly those children going from primary to secondary, that's a massive step for them, and understanding what's happening there. We cover lessons on hurtful behaviour, consent, sexualised media, healthy and unhealthy relationships, what they look like, as well as things like pornography as well. So there's lots of topics that are covered within that umbrella term of sex education and relationships. And then we also have a helpline for teachers as well. So it's slightly different to the one I mentioned previously. This is specifically for talk relationships, where they can get advice and guidance with anything at all. If they've got a query, if they don't know how to answer a child's question, and they've said, I'll come back to you later, let me find some more information about that, they can ring the helpline. They can also email them as well to gain that information, to feel confident in delivering those sessions.
Again, it's that confidence, isn't it? And also time and capacity. We place a huge amount of expectations on our teachers and our teaching staff and the whole school.
Yeah.
And actually so many new things coming in saying, oh, you've got to make sure you cover this in the curriculum, you've got to cover this now. And actually the ability to just pick something up and run with it.
Yeah.
And have all the detailed program there and all the lesson plans and everything else is just, I think it's absolutely invaluable, just to be able to have that confidence and know that it's good quality material as well.
Yeah. And it's dealing with that issue in the moment as well. So if they find out that something's going on, they can look at those resources, pick it up and run with it, rather than waiting a week, 2 weeks, a month to deal with that, because it's gone then. If they can pick it up, run with it, they're dealing with whatever is occurring in that moment, and they are helping those children learn about what the topic is, gather tools and techniques, tips, things like that, so that the children themselves feel confident in going away from that lesson with that information.
That's good to know, actually, and maybe something just want to emphasise that it's not a program you have to start at point 1 and work your way right the way through to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, say, actually, if there's a specific area that you identified that you need to support, actually you can go in, pick up that lesson and deliver that specific topic.
Yeah, so the lessons are categorised into different age ranges. But yeah, absolutely, if it falls within that age range and the children fall within that age range, they can just pick it up and run, and it's ready, it's there to be used.
But again, for anybody listening, trying to scribble things down quickly, don't panic. Again, I will put all the links in the descriptions for everybody. So again, try and make life as easy as possible for everybody, because we're all busy these days. And like Tamsin's been saying, in terms of the work they've been doing with all the tools and resources, we'll try and do the same and make sure we link to them very easily for you, so you can find those. And I think a couple of times now, you've mentioned about making sure there's a whole school approach to these programs. Why is that so important? And I guess, how do you work to develop that? Again, when schools are sort of very busy, very pressured with lots of different things going on.
I think it goes back to our 10-year strategy. It's everybody's responsibility to keep children safe, no matter what you do as, your job, what your lifestyle's like. It's everybody's responsibility to make sure that all children are safe. So creating whole school approaches, make sure that everybody's involved in decisions. So with the one particularly with talk relationships, students are involved, teachers, governors, it's support staff, it's parents, carers, it's that everyone is taking that active role in making sure that children are informed with the correct information and that they feel safe in whatever they go on to do in their free time. They feel safe at school and beyond into adulthood as well. So it's everybody's responsibility. So that's why we're developing this whole school approach. And with Speak Out, Stay Safe, again, if you're aware of what's happening within the school, you can have those informed conversations with children so that they can have action happen straight away, rather than, hold on a minute, let me just go find that out. I'm going to put things into motion and to help you.
And I think that's important because, again, I recognise the pressures on schools and different priorities are given. But I think sometimes because of that, it's tempting to say, okay, well, we'll do a one-off assembly, and that's it. We'll include a little bit in the newsletter to go home to parents and, as a one-off. But actually, by having that golden thread running through everything you do, if it's there, it develops confidence both in staff working with children, but I think that is then communicated to children when there is that confidence and it's instilled that actually it's okay to talk about these things. It's healthy to talk about these things, and they feel able to should they need to.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's removing that stigma from these topics. They are hard-hitting topics. So it's removing that stigma from them, that we can have open conversations around what perhaps myself as a child felt a bit icky and a bit gross. But we're just having these open conversations now with children that it's absolutely fine to talk about these. And if you're worried about anything, let's make a plan to put things into motion.
Have you got, just out of interest, have you got any sort of good practice examples of sort of any schools that you've worked with where they've been really successful in getting that whole school approach? And what is it that they've done or you've seen?
So in terms of Speak Out, Stay Safe, we're really encouraging schools to embed the programme within their curriculum. So it's a matter of delivering those assemblies on an annual basis. They don't have to, but it's really helpful. So it's just that reminder that these things are not okay. These things are never a child's fault. These are the people that you could speak to if you're ever worried about anything like that. And it's just that constant reminder that you can speak out about these things. So lots more schools are embedding the programme within the curriculum. So they're contacting me on an annual basis to see if there's been any changes, to remind themselves of the content. And we also have some workshops that go alongside the Speak Out, Stay Safe programme for some of the children. So it's for year 2, 5 and 6 that just extend that learning around those topics and embed that information even more into their minds. So lots of schools are checking in with me now, going, is it my year for the workshops? Yes, it is. Or no, it's next academic year. So if you do this assembly this year, we'll be ready to keep that information within the children's minds, who they can speak to. Childline's always there for them. The websites are there for child-friendly, age-appropriate information as well.
As you were talking then, I can suddenly imagine people listening to this. When you mention the word workshops, their ears pricking up and going, oh, hello, what's that? And so, yeah, if it's okay to say, we'll come back to that. I think that could be something that people are really interested in. Is like, oh, actually, what support is available around to deliver these programs, if that's all right.
Yeah, no, of course.
Okay, and before we get on to that, I just wanted to go back as well, because right at the start, we mentioned the programs we've just been talking about, but we also talked briefly about online safety. And I know you've been doing a lot of work recently to help teachers talk about social media and helping inform children, young people about how to keep themselves online and make informed decisions about their online use. And you mentioned you've been doing some work with Common Sense Media. Are you able to talk about that? That'd be really interesting.
Yeah, so we've recently partnered up with Common Sense Media to create that culture of online safety. They have lesson plans, resources, all the way through the year groups as well for teachers, as well as tools, information for parents and carers, all around keeping children safe online. It's such a hot topic at the moment, like we mentioned earlier, that is so fast-paced moving that we need that knowledge and we need that information to make sure that we are keeping our children safe. So yeah, we've partnered up with Common Sense Media. There's for teachers lots of lesson plans that, again, if there's an issue happening within a particular class in a school, they can find that lesson plan around that topic and get going with that to tackle that issue in the moment and try and support those children with age-appropriate information. But there's also those tools and information for parents and carers around searching what like PEGI ratings are for particular films, and lots of information around that as well. So it's a really exciting new partnership that we've got happening at the moment. It's happening right now because we've got those common goals where we want to keep children safe online.
No, and again, anybody listening, I'll pop the links for that and for Common Sense Media into the description for this episode. So just sort of going back then to the workshops.
Yep.
I'm imagining, I may be wrong with this, but obviously you cover the whole of the Southwest region and the Channel Islands. I imagine that you're not the one going out to, I can't imagine how many hundreds of schools delivering all that. How does that work?
Yeah, so I'm not the whole of the South. I have colleagues that cover different patches and areas, but we have a group of volunteers, amazing, dedicated volunteers that go into schools and deliver workshops for year 2, 5 and 6 children. So we don't have many volunteers. So in Somerset and North Somerset, which is my area, we have 5. And if you imagine that there's so many primary age schools. So in Somerset, there's so many different school settings. It's primary, infant, junior, first, middle schools, as well as SEND schools, alternative provisions, such as pupil referral units and social, emotional, mental health schools, and they SEND settings as well. So we've got a lot of schools that would like to have these workshops. So they are limited to our capacity, but we have this 3-year rolling basis where every 3 years we hope to be able to offer a workshop to schools alongside the assembly. The assembly is the main element of the programme because it has all that information, introducing children to that language and of who they can speak to. And then the workshops are just helping to embed that knowledge and just expand on those topics that they've learned from the assembly previously. And for those schools that aren't able to have those workshops this year or next year due to capacity, we do have follow-on lesson plans for teachers, which again, pick up and go. You can just run with them that help cover those topics that are similar to what is covered in those workshops.
So on that then, I guess there's 2 parts to that. One, how do people find out about the workshops, or how do they kind of request a workshop or for you to come along?
Yeah, so you can just put in a search tool, NSPCC Speak Out Stay Safe programme, that takes you to our landing page where you can register. So all schools need to register for the programme, whether it's just the assembly element or the workshop element. That filters through to each school coordinator, and then we contact that member of staff, talk them through the programme, how it looks, how it works, how it's delivered, because the assemblies are pre-recorded assemblies delivered by NSPCC presenters, but alongside a member of staff in school, because there are pause points throughout those assemblies where the children get involved and those teachers are there to facilitate that conversation. And then if we have capacity and volunteer availability in their area, we offer workshops, and then our amazing volunteers get up early a lot of the time, drive to that school, deliver these incredible workshops for these children.
And that leads beautifully on to my other part of that question is, so you say you've got 5 volunteers for the whole of Somerset and North Somerset?
And North Somerset, yeah.
I'm guessing you'd welcome anybody sort of wanting to come along and be part of this and help volunteer. And so with that, if anybody is kind of sitting there going, oh, that sounds interesting, how can they find out more? And I guess what support might be available to them to help support deliver this?
It is such a fully supportive role. So I'm going to put that out there to start with. I was actually a volunteer myself before I started this post. So I know what it's like to be a volunteer. It's so rewarding, teaching children how to be safe, who they can go to. And so having more volunteers would enable us to reach more children face to face, and they can again search NSPCC volunteering and it would come up with different volunteering roles in the NSPCC, but you want to click on school service.
School service, that's the key bit.
School service
Right.
is the key bit. You don't need to have worked within an education setting to be a school service volunteer. We've got lots of volunteers across the country that have never worked with children in that capacity, but I have a passion for making sure that children are safe. And so, don't need any experience. We have fully comprehensive training where a volunteer gets all the information that they need to know about what it is to be a school service volunteer. We teach them the materials as well. And all we ask is that volunteer does 2 schools a month. So that's the commitment. 2 schools a month. We really look after our volunteers. We do individual supervisions. We do group supervisions for any updates that we may have, and so that they connect with each other. They usually go into schools in pairs, so you're never just off you go. Crack on.
Stand in front of a load of children and
No, you are really, really supported, and you do a little bit to start with, and you just build up and build up and build up until you're able to do the whole content of those workshops. But you've always got another volunteer with you. You've always got your schools coordinator supporting to have phone calls afterwards as well. And we really support our volunteers. We really look after them because they're doing an incredible job.
Again, I'll pop the link in the chat for anybody. And any colleagues listening from the NSPCC listening to this, of course, there are other fantastic volunteering opportunities as well.
Yeah.
But today we are talking about schools, which is why we're focused on that aspect of it. So I will link directly to what you've just talked about there, Tamsin, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you.
Just to kind of round off for today, and I think there's so much we can talk about, but I just rounding off some of the bits we've picked up on already. I just wanted to kind of round off thinking about some of those helplines that you talked about. One is obviously Childline.
Yeah.
Say it's what the best known support helpline for children and young people. And the other one is that adult helpline, if that's okay. So starting off with Childline, like we mentioned, it's been around for a long, long time. And I know from my childhood when it was introduced, which is showing my age now, that 0800 111, it's still
ingrained.
It's still just ingrained, trips off the tongue, which is, again, I think a real acknowledgement of the effectiveness of it and the legacy of it. But like I mentioned, I'm guessing it's not just a phone number these days. I'm guessing there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, there absolutely is. We still have that phone number. So 08001111 that children can contact, where it's free to call. It's confidential unless a child is deemed at risk or another child is deemed at risk. That is where we'd break that confidentiality, but we would inform the child that we would be doing that beforehand. It's open every single minute of every single day. So it's open on Christmas Day. It's open at 2:00 in the morning. It never closes, and it is run by volunteers predominantly. We have members of staff, but the workforce is our volunteers in that service. So we still have that telephone number, which lots of children still use regularly every single day of the year. But we also have websites now as well. We've moved with the times.
I thought you might have done.
Yeah. We've modernized, but that phone number will always be there. But yeah, we have websites. We've got 3 websites specifically for different age groups. So we've got our Buddy website, which is for Key Stage 1 children. We've got our Childline Kids website, which is for Key Stage 2 children. And then we've got our Childline website that is from Key Stage 3 beyond up to adulthood. So these websites have age-appropriate information around a range of topics. They have tools and techniques such as mood boards and calm zones that can help with things like anxiety, as well as being able to speak to our Childline counsellors via email, where they can email a counsellor and they'd receive an email back, and they might want to respond to it straight away, or they might want to just wait a couple of days and respond to it in their own time, as well as a chat box function where it's a little bit like text messaging. A child is connected to a Childline counsellor. They communicate back and forth until that child stops replying. And then we also have message boards where children can communicate with one another and support one another. That is very vetted. Nothing goes on the message boards without being checked through first. But that's creating that culture of children supporting children and raising children up and making everybody feel good and safe, and that they're not alone as well. The website can be translated into 120 different languages. So there's a lot of languages that it can, because we want to include as many people as possible. We're a multicultural nation now, have been for a long time. So we want to make sure that everybody has access to Childline, as well as British Sign Language within that website. And there are deaf zones as well for children with hearing impairment as well. So we're trying to make sure that we can include as many children as possible. But website is as well open every single day, every single minute. It's free as well to use, and it's confidential as well, unless a child is deemed at risk.
Of course, yeah. If you've not been onto the website, if you've not checked out all those different forms, or if you're talking to children and young people about what's available, it's not just a phone number now. It's keeping up with the times.
Yeah.
So many different ways, like say emails, the website, the information there, instant messaging, and of course, traditional phone line, which is there if they need it, if they want to talk to somebody directly.
Yeah, and lots of schools are introducing that website within like IT lessons or PSHE lessons to introduce it to them so it's not scary, because it can feel quite daunting reaching out to something online. So yeah, lots of schools are spending a lesson just introducing those websites to the children.
That's great. And I think that's what's so great about things like instant messaging and what have you, is it's so less daunting, I think, than picking up the phone and talking to a stranger. Actually, you can just message. And a lot of young people are used to messaging these days,
they're natives these days. And yeah, like you said, it's not as daunting, and you can take your time in doing that, and you can leave it, you can come back to it. But yeah, whatever way that children want to communicate with us, we're there for them.
Amazing. So just kind of finally then, we mentioned the helpline for adults. What is that? What does that look like?
So the helpline for adults is what it says on the tin. It's to help adults. So there's a helpline number and an email address that adults can talk to practitioners. It's a confidential service to get advice, share any concerns that anybody may have. And it might be a teacher in school that has some concerns, or it might be a parent in the community having some concerns around a child. So it is for everybody, parents, professionals, members of the public, to just get that confidential advice, ask questions, queries, gain more information as well. So yeah, really a great resource for the adults.
And is that just a phone number, or is there sort of an email for that as well?
So the phone number, there's a phone number, and then there is an email address. So again, some adults don't like speaking on the phone, and they can email whether it's a question or a concern, they can email that.
Brilliant. Have you got the phone number to hand? Just out of
interest? I do. So the phone number is 0808 800 5000, and then the email is help@nspcc.org.uk. The helpline number is open from 10 till 4, Mondays to Fridays, and then the email service is 24/7.
Perfect. And again, don't worry, I'll pop those in the chat for anybody sort of listening to this, and might be easy. I've got to be honest, it's not as catchy as 0800 1111.
It's not, and there's a lot of zeros.
But that's fine. I'll pop in the description to pick you up to.
That's amazing. But it's also good to perhaps pop it in your phone book on your phone, and just to have it there. So if you need it, it's there, and you don't need to go searching for it.
Amazing. Well, Tamsin, thank you so much for coming in and for the work that you do, the work that the NSPCC does, and the support you put in place, not just for children and young people, but for parents, for adults, for professionals, for teachers, as we've just been talking about, because it is absolutely invaluable. I'm just saying, we've talked about, there's so much we could talk about. I've got 101 different thoughts going through my head. And if it would be great at some point, if we're able to kind of come back and touch base and find out about some of the other work or some of the volunteers that you work with, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, no, that really would. I'd love to.
Brilliant. Tamsin, well, thank you so much. Great to speak to you today. Thanks for joining us here at the P-Pod. Really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll touch base with you again very shortly.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure. Great stuff. Take care then.
As always, if you would like to find out more details on the topics discussed in today's episode, please go to the SSCP website at somersetsafeguardingchildren.org.uk, or of course the NSPCC website, nspcc.org.uk, or by following any of the very many links in this episode description. If you do like listening to the P-Pod, we would really appreciate it if you did take that little bit of time just to follow or subscribe to us on your chosen platform. Or even better, leave us a review and let other people know about it, and make sure to let your colleagues know about this podcast and encourage them to come and join us here as well. It really does help to spread the word. If you have any questions or comments arising from today's episode, or have ideas or would like to be involved in any future episodes, we'd love you to get in touch with us at thepod@somerset.gov.uk. Once again, I'd like to give a huge thank you to my guest today, Tamsin Sheldrake, NSPCC's School Service Coordinator, and as always, I'd like to thank you for listening. My name is Steve Macabee, and I'm the Training Manager for the Somerset Safeguarding Children Partnership. And I look forward to you joining us again next time at the P-Pod.
Let's work together to help keep children safe.